Today we're talking Souvenirs from Venice, a really cool, tiny game from Oink Games, all about trying to sail down that, sail on canals, you
I was like, don't say anything, don't say anything.
Hey there, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm Andy, and I'm here with Theo, Elizabeth, Glenn, and Jess, and today we're talking Souvenirs from Venice, a tiny little game where we're going to be souvenir shopping in the canals of Venice, but it's a race against time, because if we don't make it back to the airport before our flight leaves, we get no points. Let's get into it. Welcome to Souvenirs from Venice, where we're going to be moving our little gondolas through the canals of Venice, buying and selling souvenirs off the backs of these tiles as we go. There are 3 parts to each turn. Our first player is going to get us started by beginning their first turn with the research step, where you're researching where you can find certain souvenirs out in the city. To research, all you're going to do is flip one face down tile in the city to its face upside. The tile I flipped over was Venetian glass. Now every souvenir tile in the game has a few different elements on it. The first is its name, which matters because you're trying to find souvenirs in sets of 3 matches. Our white number in the corner here without any laurels around it is the number of Venetian glass tiles that can be found out in the city, so there's only 5 of them to look for. And the dark blue number here in the laurels is the number of points total we'll score for a set of 3 Venetian glass souvenirs. Now that tile's going to stay flipped over. It's public knowledge where everybody can find some Venetian glass in town now. And we're going to move on to the next part of our turn, which is to roll and move our gondola. We're going to take the die, which notably only has faces of 1, 2, and 3 on it, and we're going to roll to see how far we move this turn. That number you roll is the number of spaces you must move this turn. It's not optional, so I have to move 3 spots, and a spot in this game is an intersection. You're allowed to change directions at any intersection, but you can never retrace the path you just took. You can't go backwards. So my next move could be to move on up this way, and then maybe 1 over, for a total of 3. The other thing to know about movement is that you can jump over another player's gondola as part of a single move. Now the third part of your turn is to make a decision about buying or selling out in the city. There are 3 different things you can do during this part, or you can skip it altogether. The first thing you're allowed to do is buy in secret, which means you're going to take a peek at any of the tiles on either of the 4 sides of the intersection you're in, and without showing anybody else at the table what you've seen, decide whether you'd like to purchase that souvenir. Purchasing a souvenir always costs exactly 1 of your money tiles, so if we wanted this mask secretly, we could swap that souvenir tile with one of our money tiles from our supply, and then we take this souvenir tile face down into our scoring area. Second, you can buy in the open. If you end your movement next to any face-up souvenir tiles, you can choose to buy that tile in the open, which basically means everybody at the table knows what you're purchasing. So if we ended a turn next to that Venetian glass we'd researched on turn 1, we could trade it out just the same for 1 piece of money. But worth noting, that tile then gets flipped face down into your scoring pile, so it always remains a mystery exactly what you've got in your stack of souvenirs. And thirdly, you can sell one of your souvenirs. So if our orange player here isn't interested in holding onto this gondolier shirt they bought earlier in the game, during this third part of their turn, they can swap 1 souvenir from their supply for one of the money pieces out on the board, and they're going to place their souvenir back face down so it becomes another face down tile out in the city. So that's one player's turn, is to do their research by flipping a tile, making a roll and moving that many spaces, and then choosing whether to buy or sell something. There are a couple of special tiles scattered somewhere out in the city as well. The first is our pigeon feed seller. There's only 1 of these in the game, and as soon as anybody flips this tile, whether it's because they're researching or they're peeking at it for a purchase in secret, they must immediately announce to the table that they've found the pigeon feed seller. We're gonna flip this tile face up in its spot, and everybody at the table must immediately pass 1 souvenir tile from their supply to the player on their left. The other special tile you might see is an actual pigeon. There are 2 of these in the game. Pigeons do nothing unless the pigeon feed seller is somewhere face up on the table. And if the pigeon feed seller is face up in the city when this tile gets flipped or peeked at, then we're going to do the exact same effect and pass a tile to the left. Now your end goal in this game is to purchase souvenirs in sets of 3 and exactly sets of 3, because any excess you have that is not part of a set of 3 will be worth negative points at the end of the game. At some point during the game, you're going to want to head back to the airport and actually re-enter that airport space, because when you do that, you'll lock in your score. In fact, a player at the airport can no longer be affected by the pigeon seller or pigeons. Once you do go back to the airport, the only thing you'll do on your future turns is the research portion to keep flipping over tiles, no more buying or selling. Hey folks, sorry to interrupt. This is just a 15-second reminder that we're a small team of board game lovers running an actual board game shop here in Wisconsin. If you like what we do, you can support us directly by shopping with us online or by stopping in the next time you're in our area. Thank you. All right, back to your video. And a game ends immediately when a player flips the final souvenir token in the city so that all of them are face up. At that point, we're going to check for any players who didn't make it back to the airport before their flight leaves. Those players are going to score 0 points for this game and lose. Those players who did make it back to the airport will then count up the scores of the souvenirs they were able to collect. So we ended up with a matching set of 3 Venetian masks worth a total of 5 points. Any extra tiles are worth -1 point each at the end, so we'll end up with 5 minus 1 for a total of 4 points. We'll count up everybody's scores, and the tiebreaker in this game is actually whoever made it to the airport first. So for being punctual, you might just win a close tie at the end.
So unlike most push your luck games where you're only sort of pushing your luck like on your turn, I feel like we were super excited and like on the edge of our seat the whole time because everybody's turn is revealing some new information and you are kind of thinking, oh, can I go further into this map to get more stuff? Or when do I need to start making my way back to the airport? How much stuff can I convincingly grab before it's time to start heading back? So I felt like that point of tension and excitement and, oh my gosh, am I gonna make it, was there just continuously for the whole game.
Yeah, all my anxious traveler tendencies came into full bear because I'm hanging out barely halfway into town, and like partway through the game, I'm like, I gotta head back. Like the plane's leaving, and as I'm watching other people go deeper and deeper into town, it was hilarious. I'm just sitting there the whole time going, I cannot believe you're trying this, and you'll probably outscore me, but only if you make it back to the airport. So good. Ones aren't gonna get you to any airports. What are you doing going deeper? What are you guys gonna do? The plane leaves in 14 minutes.
I know what that
The
is.
engines are on.
I did like that selling technically added an extra turn to the game too, just because, you have to replace that piece with a hidden face down tile, so I had to spend that research time to flip that tile back over. But also the mass panic of, oh god, I have to offload the things that I can't collect a set of. Is there anywhere near the airport that I can try and offload things as soon as I get to the airport, then I'll be fine?
Well, the game will also play very different on the number of players you have, because with more players, you have fewer turns to go and find stuff.
That's true.
Yep.
There's also a really interesting interplay between having extra stuff as a protection against the pigeon feed seller
Yes.
and getting rid of that extra stuff after he's shown up, but hopefully he doesn't show up before you've picked up anything, shall we say, extraneous that you are willing to lose. If I had lost one of these shirts in the early game, I would have been inconsolable. I'm going to research down here. It's a gondolier shirt. Yes, please.
Oink Games does a really good job of making travel-sized games. You could literally play this anywhere, at most dining tables, some pubs if you're really risky.
Adventurous?
Adventurous, yes. But I also really enjoy the simplistic art style on these. I think I would have liked something on the coins to make them more representative of money, but that's a very nitpicky detail.
Yeah. Though I think, was it Elizabeth that you mentioned that you like that these are very matchy colors so that when someone does flip something over, you have to really pay attention to it to like sneak a peek. But even if you did catch a glimpse, you'd really have to like crane your neck to obviously cheat and look at it to know what they're picking up.
So the big takeaway for this game is this kind of central airport mechanic. Like moving around, interacting with tiles off of dice rolls is really neat, and I like the fact that it's canal based, so you're moving between nodes, which is a really nice little mechanic. But this airport thing is so central, where not only is it a stark divide between you get to score points and you just straight up lose the game if you don't get back to the airport, but it's also a safety net for when you feel done. You can go back to the airport anytime and nothing can touch you anymore. I can't name another game that has a mechanic that feels similar to that for me, so I think that is really cool and unique.
What I'm curious about, let's say you were playing with some younger kids and you wanted to make it a little bit less frustrating or make the panic a little bit more tolerable. You could probably move the airport to the middle of the
I don't
game.
see why not.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Couldn't
have
do
it
that
over
because
here.
it wouldn't be structurally viable, surrounded by all the canals.
That airport would be in the water.
All right, we love Oink games. We did Order Overload Cafe, which was an absolute blast. We did Drove Polter, and the one to know, if you don't already, is Scout. Check out that video. The game's amazing. You can hit that like button, leave a comment if you got one. We love reading those. Subscribe to see new videos every week when we post them, and check out our online store where we've got Souvenirs from Venice and a bunch of other really cool stuff. For the time being, we appreciate you joining us this week, and we'll see you next time. Finger guns!
Breathe! My goodness.
No.
Spencer.